Good evening, and welcome to the Town of Dayton's regular Board of Selectmen's meeting. Today is Wednesday, March 12th at 6 o'clock p.m. This meeting is in person or via Zoom at Old Town Hall, 1111 Somerset Avenue, Dayton, Mass. This meeting is being recorded. The listing of matters are those reasonably anticipated by the chair, which may be discussed at the meeting. Not all items listed may in fact be discussed, and other items not listed may also be brought up for discussion to the extent permitted by law. Can we please have a call to order?
Nicole Mello, present.
Mark Pacheco, present.
And Peter Karen, here. We're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And fortunately, we didn't have anybody pass away this week, so we don't have to stay standing for a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're going to hop right into things. The first thing on the agenda is scheduled appointments. At 6 o'clock, it's the Committee, Commission, Board of Appointments. This is a review, discuss, and act. Recommendation to appoint Christopher Reddy to the Dayton Economic Development Committee. Are you going to take care of this, I guess?
I guess I didn't know if Chris was going to be here tonight.
Yeah, okay.
So, Dan Higgins for the Lincoln Avenue, Chair of the Dayton Economic Development Committee. So at our last meeting, we've had a outstanding opening since last December of a representative from the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce. The composition of the board includes one member from them as a representative. Our last representative less than December. So Chris is a very active member of the Taunton Chamber of Commerce, and in discussions with them, he has agreed to be their representative to our board. He is a Dayton business owner, owns OL Services, LLC, and it was a unanimous vote. I think it would be a great addition to fill that position.
Great. And he's not here this evening. Typically, we require that any appointment be made with the applicant here. And he's already on the Dayton Town Development Committee?
No, we'd like to have him appointed.
You want to have him appointed?
As the Taunton Area Chamber of Commerce representative.
What would you guys like to do?
Chris is known to me.
Yeah, to me as well. So
It's
it's Nicole?
I'm fine with appointing him without him being here. He's already part of the Taunton, Chamber of Commerce. So, I mean, he's a known entity.
Okay. So is there a motion on the floor to appoint Christopher Reddy to the Dayton Economic Development Committee?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Dan.
Dan. Chief, you're up, sir. This is just an update. This is not a review, discuss, or act. And as the selectmen are aware, we and Ralph all had a chance to visit the firing range over this past weekend and into last week. We had a great tour, and I wish those who had issues with the firing range were there to visit. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But the chief is going to go into it. I just wanted to let you know that we were there. We saw the house that was supposedly hit by a bullet. And in addition to that, we actually had an officer fire 15 rounds at the firing range to see how far away we could be if we could hear it. At the time, I was with the chief in his car, and we didn't even know he fired. We were on Middle Street. Now, that's not saying nobody hears noise. It just so happens that day we didn't hear it. Okay, Chief, you're up.
Okay, so what we're looking up on the board is what's circled is the range there in blue, and obviously we're looking at it like this, so we're shooting into the berm parallel. Middle Street is the street to the right, headed towards. You're looking at that headed towards Center Street. The first question I have here is when was the range created? The range was created in the vicinity of 2015, 2016. I talked to Sergeant Dutra, who's been around quite a long time. I met with our superintendent, Mr. Ferry. over a coffee, and we discussed, the range was, made when, Chief McDonald was in the seat, and it was about 2015, 2016 is when the range was established. The next question to that was, when was the range constructed under the proper standards of the, of guidelines of, gun range handout? And yes, it was. It was, developed in the NRA guidelines, and actually, we're above that. From the research I've done, it says up to 18 feet high. The berm's about 20 to 21 feet high. Was the range constructed on the landfill? No, it was not constructed on landfill. Where the range is currently located right there is where the gravel used to be for the road to service the landfill and to be able to monitor the wells that are there from the runoff. That's all dry back there. That's where the gravel was kept for years. That's where currently the range is now. Was the range constructed on wetland? No, it is not. That road was put in place in the early 70s, 1970s. That's when that road was put in place. What was the protocol to the accept outside towns for the range? So that's always been done between the chief and the board of selectmen. Every time a town has wanted to use the range, it's always been discussed with the board of selectmen and attorney's office. The attorney's been have drafted up a letter with obviously like laws and liabilities. And it's always been between the chief and the board of selectmen. That's how it's discussed. That's what the guidelines are for that. Next question is how many days were on the range last year? With the training records that were pulled from 2024, it was 49 days. 49 days on the range is when we were there. And I know you're probably like looking at me like I'm crazy, but that's the fact of when we were training dates on the range was 49 days. Whether or not there were guys out there shooting more, and I'll get into that in a minute, on their off time, that's taken care of. It's no longer going to be allowed. There's a new lock and chain on the gate. Only instructors have the lock and chain, lock to the gate, and some town officials have it as well. But there's going to be no more shooting on Saturdays, no more shooting on Sundays, and the lock has been changed with the locksmith, so it can't be copied, it can't be tampered with. It's only the people that were given a key. Our lead bullets being used. Low lead bullets, they're like almost green bullets they call them. Very, very low lead. We've actually gone to 9mm guns this year, which are less lead than even the 40 millimeter guns that we've currently used over the past 20 years I've been here. Having the decibel levels measured. No, we have not had the decibel levels measured at the range. Mainly because under the Mass law, we're exempt from noise decibels under Mass law, Chapter 214, Section 7B. But as far as hearing protection and all that stuff, that's also required to be worn with eye protection and whatnot. And can noise reduction be installed? Yes, it can be. And we're looking into that right now. I've talked to Mr. Ferry, who's worked like a partner with us. Containers are going to get moved back to the behind the firing line to where we shoot to act as buffers to keep the noise from ricocheting and causing any more. And then there's grant money that we're looking to apply for in August. We're going to apply for hopefully an NRA grant that will obviously hopefully be able to create or build bathrooms down there to reduce the sound. And last but not least, can neighbors be informed when the range is being used? Yes, I've been actively posting things on Facebook, and I will also call the Board of Selectmen's office and speak with either Mrs. Kerwin or Mrs. Brady, and we'll let them know, and we'll try to get stuff posted on the town website. I understand some people don't have social media. I don't have social media. I get that. I understand that. That was the last question.
Thank you. Obviously, you were here last week or 2 weeks ago, and unfortunately, you left before a lot of the questions were able to, we as selectmen did not have the answers. Mm-hmm. So this is your time Take as long as you want. You can ask the chief any more questions. One of the things that I just want to clarify, I don't want to insult anybody by saying I did not hear the 15 rounds. The chief was in the car, and as a matter of fact, he radioed back to the range to say, when are you guys going to fire? And they said, we just fired it. So we picked a day, and again, this was on Middle Street, not where everybody lives, so I'm sure you guys hear a lot more than what we could have heard that day. So if you have questions for us, we'll answer them. If you have questions for the chief, now's the opportunity. Yes, sir.
If I could just hold on, just for purposes of
Yeah.
cable, if they could come up and speak into the microphone, that I would appreciate.
I'll let
Yeah.
I did, first of all, I want to reassert that we do support our police. And I also want to personally thank you for being proactive about this issue, because I've heard that you have been going around checking out, the firing range and also where the bullet hit that man's door. I was wondering, why did they decide, and maybe you don't have the answer to this, why did they decide to put the range in a residential area? I know it's owned by the town, it was the landfill, but it really, and another question is, how close is the nearest house from the perimeter of the firing range?
It was well over 1,000 yards away from, 1,000 feet away from where we're at, because I think it was like 1,100 or 1,200 feet was the nearest property to where the range is currently located right there. And then I think like it was between 1,000 and 1,200 was the average feet away. So we're pretty far away. We're pretty far out there.
Okay,
But why, to answer your first question, speaking to people in town, we've been training in town for over 40 years. We've trained in different locations. Land's been sold, land's been bought. Over time, it's been developed. And that was at the time when Chief McDonald was around. And the town thought that was a good place for us to.
yeah, it's
to
just, it is
train.
in a residential area. Even though you say it's 1,000 feet from home, it's,
It's like
It is
1,100. It's
residential.
1,100 and something feet
yeah,
away.
it's
But
just not in the woods like a lot of firing ranges are.
when you look at the picture, I mean, we're pretty far out there. I mean, where the blue circle is, we're pretty far out.
Okay,
We are. Yeah.
okay.
We are. It is quite a ways out. I mean, sound travels quite a ways. I mean, sound ricochets, so it may seem like we're a lot closer, but we're in the middle of the woods.
Okay. When was it decided to allow the state police and police academies to use it?
So the state police don't use the police academy, the range.
Okay.
That is only us, Taunton, and the Municipal Police Training Committee, which are municipal towns and cities around us that have instructors that need to get qualified, and they use our range, and we charge them per member.
Why did they use our range though? I know Barnstable comes and that's
Because-
miles and miles away.
Because they've closed ranges.
I know.
Over time,
And-
and they've sold off, and they become housing developments, so there's been
Right.
limited
Do you know why
ranges
it
in
was
the area.
closed? Do you know why Barnstable was closed?
No, I do not.
I did some research and it was closed, first of all, because of the noise.
Yeah.
And then they brought in the EPA and they closed it down because of pollution. So
I can
that's,
tell you our range is not polluted, it's very well manicured, it's taken
Okay.
care of.
all right,
I can reassure you of that.
okay.
We take pride in what we have.
What type of a contract do the police academies have? Because is it verbal? Is it a 2-year contract?
No, once it's in place till they decide not to use it anymore.
So can you rescind that agreement at any time?
It could be rescinded, yeah.
Okay, because I think that's probably the biggest issue, not so much the Taunton and the Dayton police.
Yeah.
I think it's that constant barrage of
Yeah.
gunfire.
We only had 14. We only had 14 days last year where they were there. It was 2 different weeks through the summertime when you saw probably the cruisers there. It was 14 days total that the MPTC was in our town.
Yeah,
And we were able to bill them $3,900 to offset the cost for our ammunition and for range supplies. So it kind of like offsets. That's the
Okay, but
positive
that's
side of it. It was
the positive,
$39,
yeah.
it was $3,970. We were
Right.
able to bill the state for, to offset, the cost of our ammunition, which
Mm-hmm.
is well around the $7,000 mark.
Okay.
So it
but
does
that's
help,
still-
it does help a huge.
I understand that, but, you know, it's just the noise pollution, I would call it,
Okay.
that's caused by the extra police. It was never an issue before, and I've lived there 44 years.
Yeah.
And it's just in the last couple of years, and I believe that's probably when
Okay.
the academies were allowed to use it.
I will honestly look into that.
Okay, I'd appreciate
I
that.
promise you that.
Okay. And are assault weapons fired at the range?
Patrol rifles, if that's what you consider.
I don't know, I
Yeah.
just hear, it sounds like a machine gun.
No, patrol rifles and handguns, that's it. And we use less lethal shotguns, which
And-
you probably wouldn't even hear.
And that's the academy that uses all
That's
that?
us, that's
Okay,
everybody. That's
that's
patrol
everybody?
rifles, yes, everybody. It's mandated by the state.
Excuse me for a second, this might be a good time to tell them about the private citizens who have their own range.
Yes, so that's another thing. So on this log right here, I want to be like transparent as I can be. It's a 2-page paper. I'll try to hold it up so everybody can see it. It's on the back. There's one there's over 40 calls here for gunfire, and there's only 9 calls. There's only 9 calls here, front and back, with days that we were actually training on the range. And this dates back to 2015, and there's a lot more gunfire in town being done. We actually had a gentleman come up to one of our patrol officers the other night and said, "I'm sick of you guys shooting out here till 10 o'clock at night." First off, we don't shoot at 10 o'clock at night. We shoot from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. And then when the clocks change, we have to do a thing called a low light skilled shoot. And that's from 3:30 is when we have to get down there for the classroom portion of it. And we wrap up by 7:30, the latest. We're never down there at 10 o'clock at night. There's never shooting at 10 o'clock at night. But that just goes to show you, there's a lot of private ranges in town. We get calls
I'm aware of that.
all over town, all the time for private ranges. And I'll tell you, it's a lot of it, a majority of the time, it's not us. It's really not.
All right, thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
Matt Arguin, 621 Middle Street. So a couple questions. The first thing I had is when you were speaking with your 15-shot test, what was fired for that test? Was it the patrol rifle?
That was a handgun.
Okay. You should have done it with the patrol rifle.
Okay?
Okay?
Yeah. I'm not saying that out loud, that I'm sure they're probably a lot louder than the
Oh.
handgun, but that's what we use that day.
A lot louder.
Because that's what we use majority of the time.
And you had said 50 days or 49 days
Yes.
in the last year. Was
Yeah.
that just Dayton, or did that
That was
include
the-
the
that was
MPTC
everybody. That was
and
14
Taunton?
days for MPTC, Taunton was on there for 20-something days, and then we were out there for 6 days, 4 days. 4 days.
Okay. There's a couple of things. I know, I appreciate you allowing us to talk today.
Yep.
I felt quite disrespected last time. I know you tabled Somerset,
Somerset.
but there were a lot of people who came to this meeting that wanted to speak.
Okay.
And by tabling it and not allowing any discussion, I felt a little disrespectful.
Sure.
So now that we're here, I appreciate it. So my thing is that with these town meetings, so I don't think we had an issue with your range from 2015, you said it started, until probably whatever year Taunton started. I didn't even really know it was there. Do you know what year Taunton?
2018, they started there.
Yeah, so it's been right, I remember it being around that time. So I think one of the challenges I have is that got on to the selectmen meetings for a vote. None of us abutters knew about it. That's how many officers for Taunton?
120 is what they're
120.
maxed.
So I have a concern, and had we not noticed that it was gonna be on the agenda last meeting for Somerset, that might have gotten through. So, I know you said this is not a act, but I'd love to see it where if there's gonna be any other department or association or academy to use that you notify the abutters in writing 2 weeks prior to the meeting. And that way there, we know that that's coming up, so that we can be part of that discussion.
Yeah, there won't be. I mean, as it is now, it's even tight for scheduling for mandated training.
I'd still like to see that. If
Okay.
that's something that the selectmen would consider, the select board would consider, I would like to see that, just so that nothing gets slipped in that we don't notice. I think it's only fair to the neighbors that we can be part of the process. And if it's just slipped into a meeting and we miss it, I don't think that's very fair. And to go one step further, I would love to see the town rescind the offer to Taunton and the MPTC. Yeah, and if it's a money issue, I'll help you get whatever money you need. I'll do a GoFundMe. You want 10 grand for training? We'll figure it out. But I think it's overuse of that in a residential neighborhood to have 120 some odd officers there training. How many times do they have to certify a year?
Twice a year.
Twice a year. I think that's a little excessive for a residential neighborhood. Taunton has plenty of industrial space, land that they could have in their own range. So I don't think that burden should be on the town of Dayton to train them.
I don't see them being there much longer, sir. They're building a new public safety complex, police and fire complex on 40 acres. I don't think Taunton's gonna be there that much longer.
Okay, well, I would like to see maybe some action on that, but I think that's the biggest concern. I think if Taunton wasn't there, we would have no issue. You guys could do 365. But I think that's the issue.
There's more to that Taunton just shooting at our range. Taunton allows us to go to their city twice a year as well. We do all of our in-service training there. They save this town a lot of money in in-service training. So it's kind of like one hand washes the other. They come here twice a year to shoot in a dirt area. We go to their classroom, we occupy their space. They give us free training. They've brought us to, it's so much advanced training that would cost us more money. That town, not only as an ally for mutual aid stuff, which they've been a huge help in the past, that town has been a tremendous support of this town and this department.
I understand that, but it's a little bit of a burden to the neighborhood, and I would hope you guys would consider that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Hi, Joy Wendell, 244 Forest Street. I was just wondering if when this range was designed and built, if it was inspected by anybody from the state?
It doesn't have to be inspected by the state, man. There's no mandate that the range has to be inspected by the state.
Okay, it was just a safety
Yeah,
issue, I
yeah,
thought.
no. That's why I said we're above the NRA standards. Like when the specs are looked at, that range is above the NRA standards of what that burn is.
Okay, I presented a couple weeks ago the range design criteria.
I looked it over.
Okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Yep, looked it over front to back.
It did recommend that a trained supervisor should probably be there all the time
So-
that it's being used.
So there are nationally certified, state certified fire instructors on the range per person that's shooting at target. So every time there's a fire on a 3-yard line, a 5-yard line, a 7-yard line, they are the ones looking over the shoulder of that person, and they're the ones going down and accounting for every bullet fired into the target. Because you have to pass a set score every single time. We're not just down there playing cowboys and Indians in the woods. We're down there shooting at targets. We're down there, every bullet's accounted for that's shot. It's a very safe, range discipline's is a very real thing down there. It's taken very serious.
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
It is.
I guess why we think maybe that's not happening is because a lot of times we might see one car there or something, and it's like, oh, somebody's shooting by themselves. It sounds wild at times.
So
maybe
when you
it's-
see one car there are people that hunt that property year-round. That's another thing we have to look at.
Huh.
People hunt that property. There's a lot of hunters on the property. So when we're not training and the flag's not up, or if it's not posted now on social media, it's people hunting the property. There's a black pickup truck there all the time.
They're allowed to do that?
Can't they drive down to the gun range too, though? So if you see one car, like police, if you see a car in the parking
So
lot,
yeah,
they would
sometimes
drive down.
like with overflow, but on a regular basis, there is a pickup truck that parks up top near the, where the animal shelter is. And I've been told it's hunters on the thing. Maybe Mrs. Ferry can speak to that.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
A
Thank you.
few more questions, I
That's all
think. Okay, I was wondering if records are kept then, like, under the supervision of this person. Do people have to come in, sign in, have him inspect the gun to make sure it's clean? They have a record of what kind of bullets are being used, how many?
So we have our specific department bought ammunition. We have armorers in every department that are trained on specific weapons, and they are inspected twice, if not 3 times a year by the armorers.
Okay, not every time, though?
Not every time. I mean, they're cleaned every time they're used.
Okay, yeah.
But they're inspected several times a year.
Okay. And then, the berm, I mean, what is that composed of? Is this just dirt and rocks that have been pushed up?
It's loam, it's earth, and then in
Okay.
front of that, it's sand. Sand
Sand,
is where the
okay.
impact spot is.
Okay, have they, done the due diligence to make sure there are no rocks there for ricochet? So
Yes.
there aren't any rocks there?
There's nothing
Okay.
that's gonna cause any harm to
Okay.
anybody.
All right.
I promise
There was
you
just
that.
that one
Yeah.
possibly stray
Yeah.
bullet that we heard
No.
about, so I
No,
mean.
And that was, I'll touch base on that too, so
Okay.
we visited the residence.
Yes.
It was determined that it was not a bullet.
Oh,
It was what appeared to be maybe a pebble, and it happened 4 years ago. It's been nothing recent. I spoke
Okay.
with the homeowners. I went there with myself and the detective. We looked at it, a report was filed with it, and I also went there with Mr. Karen as well, and spoke to the homeowner that day.
okay, that's good. Oh, I thought of one more thing. We heard that, let's see, it's 1,100 feet away from any,
Is the nearest, like, garage, like in the.
Okay. all right. And yet, in that booklet I told you, I had read that 9mm calibers can travel a distance of over 1,900 yards, over a mile.
If you're shooting in an open space, but we're shooting at an
Yeah,
enclosed and a berm.
true, but I mean, what if it ricochets or misfires or something?
I'll reassure you, that's why we have sand where we shoot,
Yeah,
and then we only go back 15 yards. We're not shooting at a far distance. We're shooting at 15 yards away from here into a sand berm.
true. I was just thinking, if it misfires or something.
I'm telling you, 21 years, I've never seen it happen.
Okay,
I
I'm
would-
just trying to think of the
Yeah.
safety side.
Yeah, we are safer than you will ever imagine.
Okay, I hope so.
Trust me. And I'm going to have something done, maybe like a video, and I'll have it shared on our website, to go down there and actually film a session of us training, so there's a better understanding of what we do.
That'd be a good idea.
And I promise, I'll make that happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jones, 719 Middle Street. How come we gotta shoot when we're eating supper at 7 o'clock, with 6:30, and they start shooting at night? It's crazy.
Well, that's only in the fall, when the
Yeah, I
clock's
understand
changed.
that, but why don't they shoot and stop for a half hour or so, when somebody's sitting down eating their supper, so there isn't the bang, bang, bang all night long? Cause I get tired of it, I have. It's gotten better, I'll tell you that, it's gotten better.
We're gonna
Cause
try
I
to make
walk
it-
down
We're
there.
gonna try to make it better.
I
Every
walk
year,
down there.
We're gonna make
No, I get to it.
improvements, so.
Oh, it's
hopefully
better,
you'll
it's
get
just
it.
like to have, when you're eating supper, I shouldn't have to hear that in my ears. That's nothing I got to complain. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come up? Yeah.
I'm Jim Colello. I live at 830 Tremont Street. But I got a couple of things that you said no key. You changed the lock on that?
I did.
Does the porta potty man still have a key?
The porta potty man, he does not.
You
he's not-
didn't say he did.
He's not gonna be there on Sundays.
He always did at
He was
7:30
there
in the
this past Sunday
morning.
because there was a miscommunication. Keys were issued out on Friday,
Uh-huh.
so he's only even doing the porta potty during the week, and we were down there to unlock the gate for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Now, and then you got, when Taunton comes in, especially when Taunton comes in, we got a big traffic problem. And they've stayed past dark.
Well, they've been advised.
They did. And what happened was, when they got to the parking lot in front of the animal control, and they all started their car, put the lights on.
Right in our window.
Right in my front room window.
And the bed.
Lovely.
Well, that's only in the fall, but
You know-
I will send out an email asking them to be a little bit more courteous.
Yep.
And I mean, if you don't say nothing, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, right? So if I address it, I'll address it.
Okay, and then the last thing we have is, like, if it's getting dark and stuff like that, that section of Tremont Street has no streetlights. I don't know if you knew that.
No.
Well, now you do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah.
Bowles. Can we wrap it up? Sure.
Sure.
It depends. What are you gonna say?
Say my name and address first. Robert Woods, 158 Chase Street. And seeing I started most of this conversation, I'd like the residents to know that I had a meeting with the police chief, chairman of the board of selectmen. They gave me a tour of the facility, and just so you can rest easy. The berm is safe. It was a very nice range as far as ranges are laid out. I don't think you'll ever have to worry about safety, and we have to thank the chief because he did really respond to this, and also the board of selectmen. But it's our public safety, and if there's an emergency, you dial 911. You better hope these guys show up quick, right? And if it gets real bad, let's hope they can shoot straight. But on the other hand, in 2018 when we took on Taunton, I thought that was a mistake then, right? But like the chief said, they do in-service training for us in their facility. So I can see that, but the noise, and I don't live real close to the range, but I live close enough where you can hear it. And some days it sounds like Vietnam. Right? So the chief promised me, and he showed me how many times Taunton used the range, and they're gonna get better control of it. And what's important to me, because I know that these things have to be done, just to give us a schedule so we know, and the chief said they're not gonna do it on the weekends anymore. So that's big, you can have a cookout and not worry about the bang, bang, bang. And hopefully, if Taunton does put in their own shooting range, and it'll just be our offices, and it's gonna be very easy to tolerate. I'm gonna follow up on the Taunton thing because that's what I do. And I don't know if they're gonna build a range. They're in the middle of building a humongous public safety facility. Should they put in a range? Absolutely. I mean, they got prime property over there. It's beautiful property. But
I'd say within a few years.
Yeah, within a few years.
They're pushing for it over there, so they have their own training. They want to have their own hub over there, and that's great.
Right. And Chief explained to me exactly what they do and how they do it, and it's being done right. They're not over there playing cowboys and Indians, like he said. So, I mean, that's all we can ask for. These guys have a job to do, and they're very important. That's all I got.
Thank you, Wayne.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Does anybody else want to come up?
So like add to what he said, Taunton's been super helpful with this town and any major incidences and with things that have happened in the past. I mean, I was talking to someone the other day about a retired major from the state police who just came over to us, and he went to in-service training for the first time because he's now with us as a retired special. And he went to training at Taunton, and he said, wow, he's amazed of what we do there because he's now going to go to training with us in their city. And he just went through the mandatory 4 days for the the spring session, and then we go back again in the fall and we do another 4 days. 5 days, I'm sorry, 5 and 5. And he was amazed, floored by the caliber of training they present to us. They're above everybody else, and a couple years back when I was training over there, brass from Quincy and brass from Braintree came down because what's all the noise of what's going on over the training? And we're taking advantage of this free training that's been given to us. So it seems like a lot, seems like a burden, but you have to understand on a law enforcement standpoint of what they give to us, and we're just trying to give a little bit back to them as an appreciation, so it's not a burden as far as cost to get that training.
Thank you, Chief. Nicole, do you have anything you want to?
No, I just want to make sure that we're all walking away, now that we've all had this discussion, that we're walking away with the changes that are being made, no Saturday and Sunday. The locks have been changed, nobody's going off on their, officers on their off time. That we're working on, the porta potty will only be at certain times, because I understood that was an issue. I think that was all. I just wanted to make sure that once we finished, we walked away and kind of felt a little bit better. I really appreciate everyone coming. I had so many concerns after the last time you guys were here, and I felt better when the chief brought me out there. I can't imagine being where you guys are and feeling like there's the chance that a ricochet bullet would come or whatever. I want to make sure that everyone's aware that when they're shooting this way, not towards your houses. which makes a big difference. I mean, they're shooting up towards that way, so I mean, the chances through woods and everything, it's not gonna happen. That's all I got, Peter.
No, well said. You've made yourself so available, and you gave so many tours, and thank you everyone for coming out. And I think the big thing, again, is the Saturday and no weekends. I look forward to seeing what that brings this year, and,
Call the chief, not the chief, but the police station, if you hear firing that is not on a day, because they want to monitor it. They want to see if this is the day that they're out there, if it's not a day, because I know not everyone has social media, and we'll find, I mean, we can't stop people from shooting on their properties, but we can have a better understanding as what shooting is from them and what is not.
I mean, I know, we're gonna make the upgrades to, like Ms. Mel said, to being able to send, my guy's gonna send me emails that, when we're getting complaints for gunfire, when we're not out there, so we have a better handle on it. And there's actually a tab, that's in our software system now that's developed when we get calls for gunfire, also, so we can keep better track and, better updates.
This is your neighborhood. It's not ours. We all live in Dayton, but it's a detriment to your neighborhood. And if at any time you feel like inappropriate firing is going on, my phone number, the other two selectmen's phone number is right on the website. Pick up the phone, call me, I'll call the chief. Especially if it's that rapid fire that seems to annoy most people. Obviously, I believe whatever the chief says here tonight, but I have a feeling that it's not happening on this gun range. There is another range close by, not a range, but private property, is what the chief explained to me, close by, where as long as they're not shooting within 500 feet of a house, they have the right to fire their guns. Unfortunately, it's the law. They have that right, and I have a feeling that's probably what you're hearing when you hear that rapid gunfire. If you don't think so, I don't know.
Maybe
but
that
please, like I said, my phone number's on there. Call me anytime, and I'll pick up the phone and call the chief right away. We'll drive down and make sure that nobody's on the range doing it.
If you have 5 or 6 guys shooting at once, like on the line, it's gonna sound like rapid gunfire. There's no machine guns. There's no machine guns down there. It's not.
Yes, there is.
We don't carry machine guns. But maybe it sounds like it. But if you have 6 or 8 guys on the line, they say, okay, on the count, go. I mean, anybody can attest that you're gonna hear boom, boom, boom. But there's no machine guns down there, and that's just like when you're on the line. It's gonna sound like that. The loudest days you're gonna hear guys down there shooting is with the patrol rifles. They are louder, but with a handgun, a small caliber gun, they're a lot quieter. This is the first year we went to 9mm. We used to have 40s, so they are gonna be quieter. Taunton's even gone to 9mm. They're gonna be quieter. The patrol rifles are louder. Those are gonna be the days that you probably hear it more than others. But we don't do a lot of shooting with patrol rifles. We have to do a 50-round qual, mandated by the state. And that's only that one time during the session down there. Mostly all of our shootings with handgun, because that's mainly what we use. Yeah.
Does anybody have any more questions for the chief or the selectmen about it? I mean, I don't want you to walk away thinking that we don't care, or that, again, this is your neighborhood, and we want to help you as much as we can. If you have any suggestions beyond what the chief has said, please, don't hesitate to call.
Come down the station. I have an open door policy. It's been that way since the time I've been there. So come down anytime. I've had plenty of people pop in just to say hello, have a coffee, address what you have to address. All right?
When I went by there earlier, the flag was flying in the breeze, wasn't tied up.
Yeah, I know. The string broke. Thank you.
I know the days when you picked me up and stuff. I live right there.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to move on to announcements, please.
Thank you,
you, chief.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
The Highway Department public notice, there is a town-wide parking ban in effect from November 1st, 2024 to April
Nicole,
1st.
why don't we just give it a second?
Nobody listens anyway.
No, I know, but TV does.
Nope, they didn't come here. They're like, I can't wait to hear Nicole do the announcements.
That's why I came in.
I'll sign them for you after.
Oh, okay, nice.
Sell it on eBay.
Yeah, we're gonna frame it.
On Thursdays, I review the announcements because I see you do such a
She
great
does
job,
so
Nicole.
good. She should be on television.
I don't see him.
Thumbs up, I'll let him in.
Do we know?
It's not in the waiting room.
We can let people in without a name, I thought we weren't gonna do
I
that.
thought we were doing change.
Whose iPad? Oh, good, see you later.
They knew the jig was up when we were asking who they were.
Right, I'm still traumatized,
Some things you can't unsee.
that's right.
I guess we can continue, I'm sorry.
Okay, no, that's okay. The Dayton Lions Club Food Bank will be held next on Saturday, March 15th, 2025, located at the Town Hall. It's in the lower level. Friends of the Dayton Public Library will be hosting the Meet the Candidate Night at the Dayton Middle School. This will be on Monday, March 31st. The Open Space Committee will be organizing a town cleanup. Open space and, the date has now been changed to April 26th. They are looking for volunteers to assist in their cleanup efforts. In addition, anyone with any suggestions of any particular areas to clean up can contact Jonathan Gale. The Dayton Council on Aging will now host a location for free tax aid program. The AARP Foundation offers it each year. This program focuses on assisting older adults with low to moderate income. Please call the Dayton Council on Aging to book your free appointment. That's all I got.
Great, thank you. This is the first opportunity for public input. And we will have a second one. Nancy? Sorry.
Nancy Goulart, 631 Great Terrace, North Dayton, Chairman, Stormwater Committee. On behalf of the committee, I just want to thank everybody who helped us get the calendars out, all of the departments, all of the town buildings, all of the facilities. Obviously, we had a lot of calendars to give out because we got them late and couldn't do it at lights on. Especially, I want to thank the Bay Coast Bank and Mechanics Bank, because this is the first year they've taken calendars and helped us with this, and and the post offices, they helped us each year. And the post offices and the banks were really great in having me restock them and giving them all away. So I just want to publicly thank them, and the committee will be sending letters to them in appreciation on behalf of the committee and the town.
How many do you order a year?
This year, we did 650.
Wow.
We usually give out at least 200, 250 at lights on.
Yeah.
So we had a lot left.
Yeah.
Well, we had them all left. But anyhow, I picked up some that were left over in various departments and have put them in the post offices. People were actually going in the post offices
Looking
wanting
for
to know
them.
where the calendars
Yeah.
were, like, as if the post offices issued the calendars. So it was really great.
Cool.
So I just wanted to thank them all.
Well, thank you for your effort, too. Hi.
It's more of an announcement. Stacy Ferry, 1070 William Street, North Dayton. I'm also the ACO. We, myself and Bristol Aggie, are putting on a rabies clinic April 12th from 9 to 12 at the Aggie. Dogs, cats, welcome. Everybody needs to be on leashes or in crates. And if you want to have a 3-year vaccine, make sure you have proof of your 1-year vaccine so we can give you a 3-year vaccine.
Cool.
Thank
Well,
you
thank
very
you.
much.
Anyone else at this public input time? No?
Mr. Chairman, this is.
Oh, yeah. Hi, John.
All right, I just wanted to clarify the announcement that Nicole read.
Yeah.
Open space. The original date was changed, but the new date is actually now the 19th of April with the rain date of the 26th of April.
Okay.
I just want to clarify that, that's all. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Someone listens to the announcements.
Yeah.
Well, I only read the second date. Sorry, Jonathan. I'm hoping for rain.
I won't hold it against you, I promise. Thank you.
Town administrators report.
Yeah. Thank you. First up, at the last meeting, there was a discussion about the PAC, so we did a little research on it. PAC was developed in 2021 through my predecessor, Mike Mullen. The purpose of PAC is to have permitting and compliance. It helps applicants are invited in. So it's looking to streamline the process so they understand what the permitting that's required for them before they go before boards for actual decisions. So it's it's put together to sort of help and assist. I know at the early meetings, they tended to be a little long, maybe in the neighborhood of 2 hours, but I could tell you the meetings that I have attended since October, they're definitely under an hour. Participants in the PAC provided memos to the board. I hope you have an opportunity to read them. And also, we have two of the major participants who usually go to all the meetings, Carrie Easterday here and Lisa Caledonia. I know they told me they're available if you have any questions for them or for myself.
Okay. Yes, I do have a question. Somebody has mentioned to me that they would like the meetings posted. Is it something that can be done or has to be done? Sure.
So, Carrie Easterday, I'm the department manager for the planning board. PACT meetings are not subject to open meeting law because
Okay.
it's not a governing body. We make no decisions, we make no votes, and it's just basically, for lack of a better term, some of the department heads of the major departments that would be responsible for any type of licensing or permitting on someone who's doing something on their property. They just want a one-stop shop to be able to sit down with the major departments to say, what licenses and permits do I need? What do I have to go for? And we go by the planning department goes by the subdivision rules and regs, and we go by our zoning bylaws. So that's already been determined by the town of what the requirements are. So when the applicant comes in, just to make it simple for everyone, when an applicant comes in with a vision of what they want to do, whether they get approved for that ultimately from the board, but they come to us as a preliminary because they're still putting their plans together, and they want to say, okay, well, do we have to go to the zoning board? Do we have to go to the planning board? Everything goes through the planning board, but, excuse me. Conservation, is there wetlands? Building, what does building requirements mean? So there's no votes taken, and we're not a governing body either. It's just staff getting together for the purpose of a taxpayer or someone potentially becoming to be a taxpayer. That way they can just come to one place, get the information that they need on what they have to do. Then they usually leave, and then they'll come up with their plan. Sometimes they might see that it's not cost effective because of the steps that they have to do and the cost that's incurred on that. And other times they make a determination that yes, it is something that they can move forward with.
Okay. I mean, it's a one-stop shop.
Yes.
And on paper, it sounds great.
Yes.
In reality, it is, it's a nice service to offer.
Yes.
How long have we been doing this?
2021.
2021, yeah.
I want to say 2021.
Okay.
It was initiated because we had found that the departments, what was happening was potential applicants were coming in, and they would come and say to the building, usually they go to the building inspector first, or the building commissioner. And then he says, okay, well, you need to go talk to planning, and you need to go talk to conservation, you need to go maybe ZBA if there's some variances or a special permit through them. Make sure you go to conservation. So then what happens is the applicant will go to the building department, and then go to the conservation department, the planning or ZBA department, and do all the running around for the different departments. Sometimes we're all in, sometimes we're not. And we also found that when you had it separated that way, when you had it separated that way and you don't have the meeting of the minds together, what may be said by the building department might get construed by the time they get to us. And then we're like, okay, well, this doesn't make sense. And then, okay, well, let me reach out to him. And then you have to reach out to him, wait for an answer, come back again. So I have found that the PACT meetings were also very important for those major departments to come together so that we're all on the same page and we know what's going on, if that makes sense, so that we can all see the vision together, the potential vision, and say, okay, these are the steps that are going to be taken, that need to be taken.
Sure. I think it's a great service. I just think the person who had called felt something inappropriate was going on. So that's the only reason why I asked. And it doesn't sound like there is, so you explained it very well. Nancy's here from Stormwater. I think, Nancy, you want to be brought into this, correct?
Yes.
I think now's the opportunity to do that.
The letter I sent to the board that was signed by Mr. Ferry and by me is really requesting some kind of representation. When we had a combination stormwater agent, health agent, he took care of everything. He would attend those meetings. After he left, we were out of the loop. And as I said in the letter, which I did provide to Mrs. Easterday, and I left one for Mrs. Caldonia. I don't know if you've got it or not. I left it on your desk. I'll give you one later. But the concern is that because we weren't in the loop, we had a major blow up at a stormwater meeting. I don't remember if you were at that one or the one that came after it, but the gentleman was very, very upset because he was under the impression he didn't need a stormwater permit. And thank goodness we have Weston and Sampson, because they were doing the work for planning and conservation, and they said there's a stormwater component to this, and initially they weren't asked to respond. Fortunately, the work they did included stormwater work, but the owner of the project thought Weston and Sampson was going to go study it again and bill them for work that already had been done. We know Weston and Sampson doesn't work that way. So that was a major problem. They did bring in the permit application and the check, and that's a whole separate issue. The other one was a gentleman who was my second example, who was just so persistent contacting me that we had to have a phone conversation about this whole thing. And I kept saying to him, no, you've got to go to planning and Concom. We don't get involved unless they approve a project, and then you come to stormwater, and they will tell you that. Planning always says, you're all set with us, now you've got to go to stormwater. I said, we don't get involved in give out information and all this stuff if the project isn't going to be approved. So, in citing those two examples, all I'm saying is we need some kind of representation. If a project, and I think it will be clear from the beginning, if a project is going to fall within the town's stormwater bylaw and regulations, right now it's 35,000 square feet of disturbance, then we've got to sit there and listen to this. We do require permits. We don't issue permits, the Board of Health does, because we're a subcommittee of the Board of Health. And that was what our combination health agent and stormwater agent did. So he'd be at the meeting, and if it was coming to stormwater, he would explain, you need a stormwater permit, here's the application, give it to me, I'll take it to the Board of Health. So we don't have that representation now. So the only safety net stormwater has at this point in time is Weston and Sampson. Obviously, they get involved and they recognize, as they did in that case, there's stormwater issues here. So that's what my main concern is, not what the group does as a whole. It's just because of these two instances being left out, and so hopefully we won't have any more very upset proponents. And again, if we know about the project, what it is, we'll just sit and wait and see what happens and whether it's coming our way or not. So that was my main concern.
I think you're a vital part of that group and you should be there.
Well, we were.
Yeah, until there was no representation from.
Yeah, and that's when the problems developed.
Yeah.
And the gentleman that was very, very upset, remarks get made like, this town is, pick a derogatory term, this town is whatever, or we're in business to collect permit fees. That's not what we do. But again, he got wrong information and it was unfortunate, so. So that's why I wrote a letter that Mr. Tom Ferry and I went over it, and so that's why we submitted it to you.
Great, thank you.
Through the,
Just one more thing. Are these open to the public?
What's that? The public can come in, so
Okay.
if you think of it like a workshop.
Yep, okay.
So the public can come in, but there's no public input. We have to be very careful about the public input
Sure.
because then conversations can start to turn from what
Yep,
is supposed to be, meaning the licenses and the permits and variances or anything. When you start bringing public input in, some of the visions start to change because an individual might be stepping in saying, well, can you put this in there, put that in there, and that's not
the
what
purpose
that's
is.
not the PAC's role.
sure.
I would like to respond to Nancy really quick,
Sure.
or just in general, and I appreciate that, thank you, for your memo. We do have 2 representatives from the Stormwater Committee on the PAC team. That would be Jim Aguirre and Lisa Caledonia. I also understand that this is still something that we're working the kinks out, but it's also my understanding that under your bylaws, it states in there that the issuing authority for industrial and commercial is planning, and then for conservation takes care of residential, and then anything that doesn't fall under that would then go under the Stormwater Committee, so,
Okay, and I should address that.
yeah.
When the bylaw was originally written and passed, that's exactly what it said. There wasn't a stormwater committee. What we found out was by 2018, and a successive number of new members on the Board of Selectmen, who quite frankly were tired of the complaints from homeowners who were allowed to build in areas that never should have been allowed, mainly water and basements and things like that. Stormwater Committee was formed by the Board of Selectmen to specifically focus on stormwater. And what happened was, the bylaws haven't been changed. That's part of what Weston and Sampson is looking at. We know there needs to be changes. Initially, Conservation said, to me personally, we're not getting involved with that. We do Wetlands Protection Act. I said, Stormwater is the Clean Water Act. They're both federal. So, and there is a responsibility placed on every community for stormwater management. Before we had a stormwater committee, there were not site visits made. There were not, I'll say, qualified people out in the field, like when we had a stormwater agent, who could go out and look at something and say, wait a minute, this isn't right, this isn't wrong. With the stormwater committee and with the agent, we had a good frequency of inspections and site visits. I mean, I've gone out on site visits with the stormwater agent, with Tom Ferry. We've had a number of people, we've had on-site meetings, posted meetings to deal with certain, I'll say, projects, like Brook Street. The issue that arose was enforcement of the bylaw and the site inspections and the kind of work that has to be done in a comprehensive stormwater program. So what happened was, with the formation of the Stormwater Committee, the Planning Board and Conservation, they're still doing their work. More of the site inspection and enforcement and all that was being done now because we have a Stormwater Committee. And that's why it's usually what the chairman of the Planning Board says, you're all set with us. Now you've got to go to Stormwater, okay? So I think personally, the setup we have is good because the decisions are made by the main boards, okay? We don't get involved unless we have to, or unless there is a complaint, as was the case when this committee got formed. And we had all these residents coming to the Board of Selectmen, and at one time we were Board of Health too, with these complaints about, I got water here, and I got, I mean, the usual things we're hearing that I think now has probably been prevented because of inspections and qualified people to do site inspections and do soil sampling and determining if property is considered a wetland. So if you step back and there's no stormwater committee, there's no enforcement. No one on the planning board or the conservation is gonna go out and do site inspections and say to them, like we had a joint issue with the solar farm, the minute they started clearing the land, we shut them down immediately. The violations were so bad and so serious that both stormwater and conservation issued the stop work order. Because the conservation violations were more detrimental than stormwater, conservation took the lead, and we were with them. We've had reversals where stormwater has stepped up and Concom has followed us. But in any case, to have Lisa, and who was the other one?
Jim Aguirre, Building
All
Commissioner.
right, they are not there as stormwater people.
No.
And that's the problem. Todd was there to represent Board of Health, and I don't know who's doing that now, and Stormwater. And he was the person that was responsible for making sure that the rules and regs were complied with, that he was one of the people that called me that said, we gotta go to this site, I'll pick you up and I'll be down here in 10 minutes. We gotta go to this site because we got major problems and we're probably gonna shut them down. And so you've got to have that component, or else without enforcement. But anyhow, that's why I came.
Okay.
I personally feel that we're working together now, the boards and the stormwater committee, except we've got a hole to be filled, specifically, okay? Concom is not gonna enforce Clean Water Act, neither is planning or the building commissioner or anybody else. So, this is the whole thing that we have the responsibility for.
Okay,
All right?
thank you.
You're welcome.
Do you guys have any questions before Ralph continues?
Well, if it's not a posted meeting, what would prevent Nancy from going to the meeting and as a?
Nothing.
So she could
Right.
go and as a town official, public input's not allowed, but could she weigh in as a stormwater?
Absolutely, as the stormwater
Okay.
chairman.
My only other thought is, just for transparency, could we at least put it on the calendar on the website so folks know what's happening? I know you won't post an agenda because it's not a
Yeah.
posted meeting, but could we post whatever the date, time, the
Just
date is
the
and
date
where?
and time,
The date
yes.
and time.
So I know that there was another memo outside of myself talking about, you know, the procedure, like how long they are and
Yep.
whatnot. And I think that's more of something for the PACT members to
Right,
get
to
together
address,
and work that
not
out.
the
And
public or the Board of Selectmen, right?
even like this week, we didn't have a PACT meeting
Right.
because there was nothing to discuss. So I'm thinking instead of on the calendar, instead of doing a recurring meeting, just do it when it's happening.
Yes,
Does that make sense?
it does.
That's my thought. And I completely agree with Nancy that there has been a little loophole with the stormwater part on that. I just wanted to make note that the issuing authority under those three type of properties, that it would fall under is that those are the issuing parties.
Yeah.
I'm losing my thought here a little
Yeah.
bit. So if there was anything specific coming up saying, okay, well, and I'm just gonna use something very simple, someone wants to build a house on a lot, they're gonna clear more than 35,000 square feet, but they didn't have to come to the planning, conservation, they have to go to building for a permit, but, then obviously stormwater
Right.
would be at the top for that. But yeah, I have no problem.
Okay.
And I agree with Carrie, with what she's saying. And again, the spot that is not being filled at this point is. So the big housing development proposal comes in, and they go to planning and all that. We become aware that there is a big housing project or something planned. And so we kind of monitor it. We don't get involved unless there is part of that proposal that is truly stormwater, like one development wants to have water drain from Dayton into Taunton. And I don't know how many Taunton Conservation Commission meetings we went to and said, please continue this. And finally, the Taunton Concom said to that developer, when you get straightened out in Dayton, come back here. Because I said, it hasn't come to stormwater yet. It has not been approved by the planning board. Conservation has concerns. I don't know why you're hearing this, because I'm not sure we're gonna allow water to leave this town
Right.
and drain into another municipality. So again, the way it's set up, yes, the planning board gets the big developments and the industrial things. And it's only on certain things like that, that we would step up and say, time out, you know. On the industrial end, I can only think of one location that the Stormwater Committee and Concom and the Building Department, we've all involved with in the North End, when they were planning to do some, I'll say, work on the end of the plant that's towards Warner Boulevard. And they were going to make changes. And we made several site visits, talked to engineers, and made suggestions. Well, nothing has come of it because everything seems to be in limbo. So in that particular case, it was because of drainage and things like that, that I know Mr. Pilling, I was there, Mr. Ferry was there, Jim Aggie, I was there. Not sure about Tim Rhines back then, but there was enough concern amongst, if you will, these departments because of areas of that would be involved with the various departments you either work in or the committee you serve on. Okay, but as I said, that is sort of in limbo.
Sure.
You know, but again, the main concern is knowing what's going on and being able to at least be prepared so that down the road, that development I talked about with the water going into another community, whatever happens with that down the road, again, right now it's not going anywhere, but it's something we're aware of and we just monitor it.
Okay.
As far as a rep from the Stormwater Committee, it doesn't have to be me, as long as we know that there's a meeting, and if we know what's coming up, if I'm available, I would attend. If I'm not, I'd ask Mr. Ferry if he's available, but just to sit in on the meeting to get the information, so that we know where we're going. Obviously, we wouldn't be making decisions there
Right.
either.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. I think, you have anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay, Lisa, are you here to add something?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I completely concur with Carrie and Nancy, and I think communication between departments is very important. I also think, since day one, I've been, we've been evolving on permitting and how Dayton does it, how the procedures are, and reviews of things, collaborating as boards and committees. And I think it would go, I don't know if you all had a chance to read my letter, but I think it would go a long way if, like, we knew that the permit link was going to start being utilized by other departments. Right now, I know the town treasurer uses it. I believe the assessor's office uses it. I use it, and the building department. But it would be awesome, and I think it would go a long way if the Board of Health could start using it. And I don't know when that's going to happen.
When did we budgeted the money for this year, right? I mean, fiscal year, last night when we were.
Well, that was for the annual fee. There's additional fees to
Bring on
charge,
each
to
department.
bring on
right.
that thing,
So
but it's
all
not.
we did last night was listen for the.
Yeah,
the
and
fee.
it's something we're looking into.
Okay.
Because that module is very helpful, because then instead of doing like a paper permit that has to get checked off on, the permit electronically cannot advance until planning checks off on it.
Right.
You know, conservation, health, and then the final check off should be the building commissioner.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's in my experience, because I've worked for several other communities, and that, we're the oddball here, because someone could go and apply for something, and when they do, if they don't have a computer, the towns usually have a little computer there at the desk, like in the building department, for them to apply. And when that happens, the other departments all get tasked, which is really great, because then you know, I can see right now if the other departments have made a comment, put it on hold or anything. So, you know, then you know, you don't, it doesn't require a phone call. It doesn't require you answering the phone when someone calls to say, I really don't know where things are at with your permit. I hate saying that, you know. I would rather know what the other departments have decided. Yeah, and it's just been tough with the Board of Health not having an agent. And I really think the Health Department should be represented by the agent for technical questions at the PACT meeting, you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Nicole or Mark, do you have anything at this point?
As a follow-up to what Lisa had to say, if it's okay with you,
Yeah.
could we put that on our agenda for our next meeting to
Sure.
discuss permit link? Because I think that's an actionable item that we could probably take care of prior to the, or at least with the next budget cycle.
Yep.
Because
Yeah.
do you think permit link has that capability that you can all see
Yes.
and track it?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I know that's been talked about for years, since
For
I've been
years.
involved with the town.
For years,
So,
yeah.
is
Well,
that-
I'll look into the
just to
module
look
to
into
see
it? Okay.
what needs to be done
That'd be
to add that, because,
Yeah.
right, there's permit link, permit eyes, and they all have that capability, and it's just a matter of having like the administrator give the point person the ability to open it up, look at it, and then move it on. As I said, what I'm familiar with, it's, you know, very similar to what Lisa has explained, like each department has, before the final permit can be issued, it goes through each department, and it provides notation as to what it is, what it needs, and what it needs to advance forward, so.
Yeah.
We'll take a look.
And what's really neat is too, it's a record on that property. So later on, 10 years, someone comes, they can see that they've already had to apply for conservation, or whatever it was, right? And then, what else was it? Oh, so it's not only useful for like inter-office, but I mean, if you're an applicant, my husband owned a restaurant and a food truck. He had to go through Board of Health, and he would tell me, you know, some towns really have it together and some towns don't. He never had to come through here, but it's always nice when you kind of know. And I know conservation has more, like we have more work to do. I would love to put on our conservation page the exact steps of what you need to do to apply for a Wetlands Protection Act permit through conservation, so eventually we'll get there. And even with the permit link, we can put like we can upload, eventually upload our applications on that module, which would change things, so it wouldn't just be them applying for a building permit. They could apply directly for our permits too. And I think the health department can do that too.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
Yeah,
I think
thank you.
permit link's been around long enough too, where the learning curve is over, so
Yeah.
there's probably plenty of
It's
people
been
in
several
town
years
hall that
that
could.
we started, that
I'm
Jim Aguirre
I'm
started
not
it.
tech savvy.
No.
I mean, I look at dirt and plants and stuff for a living.
Nice.
So like, if I could figure it out.
And also the cost too, whatever cost would be associated with it. I know the Board of Health has worked to change their fee structure to kind of cover their costs for inspections, so I'm sure we can discuss that too, making sure that it's being offset.
Remotely, which is great.
Awesome,
Yeah.
great. Thanks for mentioning that.
One additional thing in regards to the cost, we do have the Public Health Excellence Grant. I don't know what's going on with it anymore, but the whole point of it was to take smaller towns like us and get us up to date with other bigger communities. And that could be, I don't know what they're doing with their funds right now, but that could be something that the Board of Health could look into to see if there was any opportunity for money there.
That's awesome.
And we'll see.
Yes. Hope.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, so Dan Higgins again, I'm chairman of the Dayton Economic Development Committee. So one thing is that the discussion so far has been around residents, external customers, businesses trying to come in, they're used to the PAC. It's also used by internal groups. I have gone there as a member of my committee because I needed to socialize an idea with department heads, and it was the easiest way to do it. And I raised it to the town administrator at the time. He invited me to the pact. We were able to, express what we wanted to do, and they were able to give me their feedback. That's one point. The second point is the whole idea of the pact, which I think is great, is simply to provide what's already publicly available information, but synthesized in a way that's easier for the person to consume by pulling it all together for them. And not only is it the role of the pact, but that's pretty much what almost every committee in town does. I mean, to a different degree maybe, but
Sure.
I mean, my own group, I have run down easements for a business that was trying to sell, and they said they were having trouble because the town had an easement on their property that from going back like 50 years. I came down here, I talked to the assessors, I talked to the building department. The town looked at it, said, we don't need that anymore, we're willing to get rid of it. All they had to do was send us a letter, we'll negate the easement, and that's just, that's the same thing
Sure.
as what the pact is trying to do. It's just in kind, it's a little bit different. You and I met with a local business
Right.
last year who was interested in building more residential housing in town, had some concerns about his current office space. Again, it's all the same.
Sure.
All those committees are doing the same thing. It's just the complexity of it may warrant pulling together more department heads than something that's easier, but it's all publicly available information. They're just trying to ease the path for, residents or businesses. So I think when Mr. Mullins stood that up, I thought it was a wonderful thing for
Sure.
for the
I think
businesses
it's a
in
great
town.
idea.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Ralph, you want to continue? You
I-
had something about the,
You mind if I say a few things, Mr.
I,
Chairman?
about the
I
pact?
have as much
Yes,
as
sir.
I can say about the pact. I don't have
Okay,
anything else
sure.
to add.
One more thing. Go ahead, Wood.
Oh, thank you. Robert Woods, 158 Chase Street. And I appreciate Mark speaking up about the transparency. But I want to know who the person's going to be that determines who goes to PAC. As far as, let's say, a developer comes in, or somebody wants to know they want to build something, or whatever. Who do they see? Who determines that person or group goes to PAC?
I would
There has
think
to be
the
somebody,
planning board,
because-
right?
Let me explain. At Stormwater Committee, we had a gentleman who had a problem. So we said, you need to go to the planning board. Well, somehow we ended up at PAC. And another time I found out that there was another group going to PAC that wanted to do a big development. Well, who is the person that says, yes, PAC is the avenue for you? I'm not saying I'm against PAC, and I'm not saying we should not have PAC. PAC's a good thing, of course. But like, who is the person? Because some of these people should be going in front of the Board of Selectmen, or the Planning Board, or some other board, but, they used to come, before PAC, they would come to Planning Board just to kind of feel us out. We're thinking about doing this, and we're thinking about doing that, and you're basically telling them, that's their job to figure out how to do it. They're coming to get information, well, what's Dayton look for? Because every city and town operates a little differently. So it's like they're coming to feel you out. So who is gonna be the person to say, okay, these people need to go to PAC, or these people need to go to Planning Board, or these people need to go to the Board of Selectmen? We need to know who that person is.
Come on up again,
If I may, as Missy stays coming up, that's all right, you can follow up. Any department head can suggest that an individual should go to PAC, because that person knows that they start explaining, well, this is what I'm thinking of doing. And then the department head recognizes, well, that's out of my expertise. I don't want to give you misinformation. So we have this thing called a PAC meeting. All the department heads are there, and you should go there. For the most part, Ms. Easterday is the gatekeeper for PAC, because it's planning. Most people go through. And then the incident, which Mr. Wood was explaining, a person had a complaint. Fortunately, that day was a PAC day. All the people who could address his complaint or give him advice on the complaint, where to go, was at the PAC meeting. So it was sort of a natural notion to send him there as the first step. PAC does not preclude anyone from going to the next step. We just let people know what the next step is, what the appropriate next step is. So we don't want, we don't want to waste anybody's time. So we use that. We do it as a preview. We say, the ones I've been to, it's like, okay, you have to go, right? You have to go to the permitting. Sometimes you have to go to planning instead of zoning for permitting. Or or conservation said, no, you're not in the wetland, so we don't have to do that. You're not clearing enough land, so you don't have to go for stormwater. Or if you're clearing this much land, in all likelihood, you're gonna have to go to stormwater. Or the zoning, you're gonna have to, you need a variance, so you're gonna have to go to zoning. So it's sort of, it gives the applicant, anyone who's there, the opportunity to understand, which avenue they have to take to go in front of the appropriate board to get the appropriate permits.
Kind of like, if I come to her and ask her a question and I don't like what she tells me, then I'm gonna come ask you. And if I don't like what you tell me, I'm gonna go see him. So there needs to be one person in charge of PEC, whether it's Mrs. Easterday or any other member. There should be like one main person. If somebody comes up to town hall and goes to Karen's office and say, well, I'd like to do this, I'd like to do that. Oh, well, go talk to Carrie, or go talk to Ralph. So we need to be one person, kind of, keeping it all together. Not nilly-willy, well, I talked to this one, I talked to that one. Well, if you didn't talk to Mrs. Easterday, then you talked to the wrong person. Or Ralph, or whoever it may be.
Yep.
Right, and we need to clean this up a little bit.
Sure.
And as far as stormwater, having a seat at that table, yes, I'm a stormwater member myself. I'm also on the planning board. I do think a stormwater member should be there at that meeting. It's my opinion.
Okay.
That's all, thank you.
Thank you. Carrie, do you want to address his concern about who's going to be the first?
I think organically,
It's planning.
been the gatekeeper, and I'm
Right.
the one, usually 9 times out of 10 when someone is calling, they either call the building commissioners, 9 times out of 10 they're calling the building commissioner's office.
Okay.
First thing he says is, give Perry a call, because
Right.
you're not in the right zone, or whatever.
So they're not getting bounced around from
Yeah.
department to department.
Exactly. So organically, it has become, I've never elected and I've never been chosen. But organically, pretty much everyone comes to me and they say, okay, this is what I'm looking to do. And pretty much I know off the bat, you're going to need to see conservation, you're going to need to see building, you're going to need to see zoning or planning. Sounds like maybe stormwater. So listen, we're going to have a packed meeting at 11 o'clock on Tuesday. Those departments will be there, and that'll be the time to hash it out.
Okay.
And then again, I just want to reemphasize that there's no votes and there's no decisions.
Sure.
All we're doing is just advising any individual who comes in, and maybe I should clarify a little bit that someone who comes in with a potential application, they're getting the groundwork on that.
Right.
Then there's the aftermath when you issue the permits and the licenses and everything. Sometimes things come up, complaints come up, and then it doesn't feel like the complainer is, and that's a horrible word, I don't want to say that, but for lack of a better term, the person who's complaining feels like that they're kind of getting the runaround or not getting their answers. So then that's when I said, well, okay, well, why don't you come to PACT, because these are the licenses and permits that they have. What is your complaint? Okay, this is your complaint. That falls under the zoning enforcement officer. Zoning enforcement officer, who's the building commissioner, was there, and he said, I'm going to go out and do an inspection, and I'll submit my report. So again, there's no other decisions are made on anything after the fact. But if someone comes in with a complaint, or even the owner of that permit wants to, hey, I wanted to do some work over there. Well, you have wetlands, let's have conservation there. And then they come in with a vision. Nope, that doesn't fall under what you've already been permitted for, and you can't do that in the wetlands. I don't want to speak too much because I'm not an expert in the wetland area.
Sure.
And it also, I think I would like to reemphasize too, that with us coming together that way, and I've never done this because I never want to be able to be the one speaking on behalf of the Conservation Commission saying you need to do this and this and this. I think it would avoid that as well, so that there's no miscommunication out there. So, for example, 9 times out of 10, someone will say, well, I say, you have wetlands, so you're gonna need to go to conservation. Well, what do I have to file for that? You need to talk to conservation. That's not my jurisdiction.
Sure,
Just to make it very clear to anyone who comes in
okay,
on that. Okay?
thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just one final comment. Ralph made a point about department heads, and I agree with what Kerry is saying. I send them to Kerry, whatever it is. There are exceptions when a situation requires recognition of extenuating circumstances. We had a situation, this was all discussed openly in Taunton, again, at the Conservation Commission. We had a situation where a developer in Taunton was right up against the Segregansett River, to which we have water rights, as does the town of Somerset. And not the full Stormwater Committee, but certain members, less than a quorum, and the chairman of the Board of Selectmen discussed it, and it was decided that we would pursue it at the stormwater level because we didn't want to end up in a court battle with the city of Taunton. And Mike Mullen, a town administrator, was involved. So we did get it all worked out. We did get plans revised from the developer to protect the river. Concom was involved because it was also a situation of runoff going into the river, so on. So to just kind of point out that certainly, I think everything should go to Kerry. Congratulations, Kerry. But as he said, department heads have to recognize things. When the complaints came to me, I was actually on a site inspection out in the swamp because I was still a selectman, but I was also chairman of the Stormwater Committee. And that started everything going. So the town administrator, the chairman of the board, selectman, our health agent, stormwater agent, building commissioner, we all kind of worked together. The chairman of the Board of Selectmen was kept in the loop, but we purposely did not include the board immediately because we didn't want this to turn into the Board of Selectmen. If we could not have solved it, we were headed for legal action, at which point the Board of Selectmen would have been involved. And the town of Somerset was a party of interest, as was the Dayton Water District. So, to just back up what he said, very unique circumstances, but obviously if something like that arose again, and I got a complaint like that, I would be talking to you and him just to say this is the situation, and to resolve it at the lowest possible level.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Did you want to talk about Zoom?
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, can I say one thing about stormwater? I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I just keep hearing about stormwater not being able to be represented. I feel like I'm missing something, because stormwater is more than welcome to go to the
Sure.
meetings, from what I heard, as would the health agent and any other department head, right? So, well, I keep hearing stormwater.
Yeah,
they're
through the,
more than welcome.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, Mark, but just, we did recognize that there's been some flux lately, and we do, and we are sort of making sure we expand the invitees, and I had spoken to Ms. Easterday about it, and we know that at the very, we're gonna have the office manager from the health department there, and then we'll Zoom who we can have for representing stormwater. In all likelihood, it would probably be Superintendent Ferry, but we'll work that out.
Beautiful.
Something, we don't preclude anybody from coming, it's just figuring out who's there to come, so.
Thank you.
So.
Ms. Karen, Lisa has something to say.
Yes.
You have to go to the podium now.
Having a representative from the health department is great. I just want to reiterate, having someone there to answer administrative questions is completely different than answering technical questions. So I think that if there's a way we could at least invite the health agent if he can't make it, or if there isn't a topic for him to discuss, but at least have it open, because personally, I've only met him when he was appointed. I have only talked to him on the phone.
Well, I think we're talking
Twice.
about having Elizabeth, right, attend?
Right, well, and these are details we're gonna work out, because, you know, and just as we think, you know, Elizabeth could, if she could get the information, pass it on to
Right.
the health agent. So, you know, the idea of PACT is to like say, okay, health shouldn't be involved, you know, I'm not qualified to tell you what to do, I'll give your information to the health agent. So, it's,
It makes sense for him to be invited.
Or just, offer him the option to come to discuss.
Right.
I mean, I can think
yeah,
of
we're
one.
not gonna preclude him, yeah. we're
No,
just-
I
yeah,
know.
just-
Yeah, because there might be a topic he wants
Yeah.
to talk about with all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Ralph, Zoom meeting.
The Zoom, okay. We had, as you know, we had the incident at our last meeting, so we were reviewing Zoom policies. The town of Dayton is not obligated to put the meetings on Zoom. But I know that, you know, we have, we definitely have a history of transparency. So we took a look at how we can continue to do Zoom and sort of mitigate a Zoom bomb. So one thing which came up was we would have to give everyone a password, and that's too cumbersome to do to everybody. So what we're doing now is we're letting everybody in. They go to the waiting room, and then we let them in. No video, just audio. So we think that will go a long way in sort of protecting us against any sort of Zoom bombers. And as you see, we have the list up of who's on Zoom. And then if something did happen, we could click them off quickly. Where unfortunately, like last week, we didn't have, didn't have the list of the participants right up. So I think I think that's a good way to go. That's something I've done in the past, and we're comfortable with that. If somebody needs to be doing a presentation, we could allow them to go on the screen and share screens, but we would have vetted that person. So
Great first step.
Yeah.
Okay, on to Selectmen's, want to comment?
If you don't
Sure.
mind, just for clarification, so folks, what I heard was they won't be able to show their video unless we invite them to.
Correct.
Which they'd be vetted, and just to be clear, they have to show their name. Like, it can't be iPad, iPhone.
Well, we can't.
Smartphone.
We can't police
They
that.
put any name up.
Yeah.
But can they at least put a first, can we make that as part of our procedure? I think iPhone.
Well, then, if we can, you know what, we could list that on the, and then we could bring this up, because would be a board policy. You know, what we could do is we could list it at the top of the agenda, and then someone has to come into the waiting room, and if they just put on his iPhone, we don't admit them.
I think that would be
Okay,
nice. It doesn't take away anyone's rights to join the Zoom meeting. However, it gives us a little more control over the Zoom meeting.
We will bring that policy up at the next meeting so you can make a decision on it.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, before, this is Mr. Gale, and I'm speaking in the AGA position for this a little bit, just quickly, just to think about anyway, is that when you're still doing hybrid Zoom meetings, and this hasn't happened yet, but the question could come up, if you have a person who needs somehow to attend the meeting at some point and wants a sign language interpreter so that they understand what's going on and they're attending by Zoom, then there has to be some opportunity to have an exception. Because if there needs to be an interpreter there, because it's the only way the person can attend by Zoom, if they're not physically in person, and the meetings are being, available via Zoom, then that person has to be able to have the interpreter there, as I said, so that they know what's going on. We've never had that come up yet.
I think we could,
Confused. Wait, so he's saying having a sign language interpreter, but they can see them.
right.
So not having the camera, how would that affect?
Jonathan,
Yes.
I think there's a misunderstanding. You will still be able to see what's happening here in the town hall. We just,
That's what I'm trying to get at.
but we will not be able to see you on camera.
Okay, but they will be able to see you folks.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, if that's the case, then that's fine. I just wanted to clarify that that would be absolutely the case, that the video would basically be a one-way feed, is what
Right.
I'm saying.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, and that's just my question, thank you all very much.
Oh, you're welcome, sir. Town selectmen's reports. Mark?
None.
None? Nicole, do you have any?
Just quickly, the Commission on Disability, we met last week. As we discussed briefly last night, we decided to zero out our budget for the upcoming fiscal year. One, we haven't used budget from last year, so that right away was a great reason not to be asking for more money. Two, we take into account the financial state of the town right now. And I thought I had a third, but it's not coming to me. I had it in the email. But other than that, we also started to talk about maybe doing some different kind of programming, some kind of prevention stuff, so that we can not only reach out to our disabled residents, but also not add to our disabled residents, but also get a population that doesn't know and isn't looking for disability things, but through prevention we kind of capture them. Just trying to capture more folks than
Sure.
what we have been. But other than that, I just wanted to make you aware of the budget for this upcoming year.
Okay.
Thank you.
You've probably heard a few times tonight that we referred to last night's meeting. We did indeed have a meeting last night with the Selectmen and the Finance Committee combined, interviewing a certain amount of department heads. We had that meeting last night. There's another one tomorrow night and one next Tuesday. It's the start of our budget season. Well, we're halfway through the budget season. It's the start of the Selectmen and the Finance Committee reviewing each budget. And it went well. It's a long, tedious process, but we're off to a great start. So I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. So we're going to be on to old business, which is none. So new business, please. This is a review, discuss, and act petition to request parking lot expansion at Dayton Council on Aging.
I could begin addressing that. As the selectmen see, they received a petition. Some of the participants on the Council on Aging to expand the parking lot. Where they park now is down at the bottom of the hill. The people who work for the Council on Aging expressed concern about the elderly people. And people with ambulatory problems going up the hill, especially on icy conditions. So they put in a request to expand the parking lot. So we were in, myself, Mr. Ferry, Mr. Aguilar got together and sort of looked how can we do this? An expansion of that size requires an engineering study. And as you could, I'll back it up a little bit. As you could well imagine, it's kind of costly to expand the parking lot. So Council on Aging does have $19,000, which has to be expended by the end of this month. So we made a suggestion to them. One, Granite City will do the engineering. Will do the engineering for the project. So we could have that. So we could have that in place. So if sometime in the future, when if finance is allowed, if the Council on Aging can get a grant to complete the parking lot, we could move ahead on that. The estimated cost of the asphalt, blacktop, and laying it out is about an additional $35,000. So that's where we're at. Granite City is presenting the engineering study in front of the planning board because it has to go for a site visit. It's going in front of the planning board next Wednesday. So they'll have that in hand in case fortune smiles on us. We have some money. They could move ahead and expand the parking lot.
So you say the funds are good until the end of March. Then there's really not a decision tonight. Wouldn't it be the last meeting in March for the Selectmen? That anything needs to be approved, we can do it then.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so this is not necessarily a review, discuss, and act.
No, we didn't quite know what it was when it was coming forward, meaning that we thought, we thought the funds could cover
Sure.
it, and,
Yep.
but again, we had to, myself, Superintendent Ferry and Commissioner Aguirre spoke with the council on aging, sort of laid out the plan.
Yep.
So, citizens did bring it forward to the selectmen,
Yep.
and we just want to let you know, action has been taken.
Sure.
And we're working on it.
Okay, great, thank you.
I just have a question.
Yes.
In regards to whatever Granite City is gonna, that component that they're gonna complete, is there any, how long is that good for? Is it like if it's many years down the road that we get this money,
Yeah.
whatever they do, is that still gonna be viable?
I would, if I could refer to Superintendent Ferry, it should, I don't think it's gonna change the land, so as long as, I don't know the answer to that, I'm sorry. Yeah, not off the top of my head.
David, I don't have the specific answer to that.
Okay.
This kind of puts my department in a unique situation too, so to make something happen for the expendables by the end of March is gonna be tricky. I already went through the conservation agent, we got a limited work out there, we're already on the planning board's agenda. And so the engineering's gonna happen, and we'll probably have a list of materials that we can buy with the 19,000, with it also including the engineering. I do think it's a viable project. At some point, the board will need to act to say yes or no. I mean, if there's a no, I need to hear it sooner than later, because it is okay not to spend the 19,000. It's, because it does force us
But
to
I guess if
invest
it's,
in it.
I guess the question would be, is the board okay with us expanding
I
the
think
parking
we
lot?
could probably make a decision this evening, unless you want more information.
I just wanna know where did the grant come from? Where's the $19,000? What grant is that?
That's one of the grants that the Council on Aging had received. It's for a programming grant. I believe it's a state programming grant, and this would fit under that, meet that criteria.
So I know they did the bathrooms and all that. It's
That's,
probably
that's,
different from that.
that's the grant,
That is the grant.
that's the last grant they had.
Yeah.
And because of the work our department did, that's why you have that remaining balance.
It's awesome.
Great.
It makes sense within the scope. I mean, it's all improving that facility, the bathrooms, the parking lot, the engineering.
So
It makes sense.
they're here and now, the worst case scenario, the site prep work would be done, some trees would be removed, a very few, topsoil, and then good gravel be added with the riprap slopes for the stormwater element. Just waiting for asphalt, so it'll be shovel-ready for asphalt.
There's no wetlands there or anything, right?
There is, but
There
it's
is.
it's already, we utilized the wetland delineation for the
Okay.
railroad bed in the back.
Yep.
So I used that for a second.
Beautiful.
So we already had the delineation that we could
Okay.
go off of.
Yep.
So it saved a little bit on the engineering and the prep work.
For grants, is there a way to find out ahead of time that they'll definitely pay for it? Because I'm just thinking of
Yes.
yeah,
It
there
was
is.
already given the green light to go this direction.
Oh, great. Okay, awesome. I don't have any questions.
Nicole, do you have any other questions?
No, that was it.
Mr. Ferry? Nancy, yes.
Mr. Ferry and I are kind of both in conflict, being on the Stormwater Committee and him being Council on Aging. And I signed that petition, so I support the
Yeah,
project.
I saw your signature on that.
I'm not opposed to a parking lot, but you know what I'm gonna say. One of the things that we have to report on the MS4 is potential sites that can be converted from impervious to pervious surfaces. If we are going to create a parking lot, I hope that the engineers are going to pave it or surface it or whatever you call it with pervious material. We don't want to add more impervious surface to our MS4 report. We actually were able to do something down at the tennis courts, right, a small section. We had to give them 5 possible sites to convert from impervious to pervious. Only one of them was partially done. But I just mentioned this, that going forward, if there's going to be, I'll call it surfacing of parking areas, that we keep that in mind, because if it's pervious, that's a plus for the town, and we put it on the report.
Sure.
We just don't want to add more,
Right.
we don't want to create more runoff that's gonna, you
Right,
know.
yeah.
So would it be like a gravel parking lot's better than asphalt?
No, there is asphalt that is
Pervious?
pervious. As a matter of fact, one of the first stormwater permits issued was for a home on Hart Street, Hart Street, where it was extremely sloped, and part of the driveway, in order to get the permit, had to be pervious. The rest could be impervious, but because of the slope and the water going across the street, yeah, that was a requirement that they met.
Oh, great.
The parking lot at the tennis courts cost $30,000, so we are probably close to that same size, correct?
Yes, that's how we get that rough number. Yes.
Okay. So we're gonna keep this as a review, discuss, and act then, unless you don't want to, guys.
I'm good.
You ready to make a decision?
Yeah, I'm
Okay, is there a motion on the floor then, please?
It's not for a parking lot expansion, it's for, so I'll make a motion to approve the engineering for basically studying an expansion of the parking lot. Would that be a fair statement?
No, some things may need to actually happen before the end of the month.
Okay.
Which includes removing some trees and topsoil.
Okay.
So I would say the project could be a go-ahead.
Okay, I'll amend my motion
I would need that, yes.
to allow the parking lot expansion project to move forward.
I'll second that.
Okay, a motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you, Mr. Ferry, again. Pat, you've been sitting here so quietly.
You guys are real troopers, thank you.
This is a request for the 250th anniversary, from the 250th Anniversary Committee for Revolutionary War Soldiers Monument.
Okay, I'm Pat Gales, and I'm the chair of the 250th Anniversary Committee, and Ray Haig is the Veterans Agent, so he's working with the committee on this project. My committee is really great at brainstorming and coming up with great ideas, and in our conversations, we decided that it would be really important to leave something that's permanent for the 250th anniversary of America here in Dayton, so that people in years to come can come and see. We had over 300 Revolutionary War veterans that were listed in the Lives and Fortunes book from 1976. And there's nothing that really honors these men and these soldiers. So the plan that we hope to have is a monument to honor these Revolutionary War soldiers with a companion podium in the Veterans Circle. And the podium idea is from Mr. Ferry. So Ray and Tom are working on this, and it's going to be the lasting tribute. At the Dayton Transfer Station, there are pieces of granite from the old Dayton-Berkeley Bridge and the new one, right? They're pink too, Tom?
It's all from the old.
All from the old. So we went and we did a field trip and went and looked at it, and it was sprinkling, rainy, but we did it. They have some nice pieces of granite there that would work, which was kind of exciting. And we'd like to repurpose these for the monument and for the podium. So we're requesting from you your approval to utilize these granite pieces as part of this meaningful project. But to help manage costs, we'd also like permission to barter a piece of granite with the monument maker in exchange for the services. This was Ray's idea. Wasn't it your idea?
It's his idea.
His idea?
It's his idea.
Maybe your idea, who knows? So, because that'll help with the cost of this. In addition, of course, we are actively seeking grants and alternative funding sources. So we are respectfully asking for your approval of the monument project and the podium and its placement within the Veterans Circle. So.
I have no issues with using the granite and finally having a permanent podium there, because we know what happens every year. With a little bit of wind, it goes flying, and it's a chore to bring it up to the podium up to the circle. So, but tell me more about this bartering that you want to do. Ray?
What we're asking for tonight is really to enter into the feasibility study of
Okay.
this project.
Yeah.
In my mind, I believe it might take several votes of the Board of Selectmen to make this come true.
Okay.
One being the use of the property, two being the purchases of the, even though it's not gonna go to the bid procedure laws because it'll be less money. I talked to Abinaz Monument in Westport, Massachusetts, and they were instrumental in doing the monuments that we placed in the Veterans Park in Fall River. So they're experienced at it. And what they would do is take one of the slabs, I don't know if you've all seen this
Yes.
granite that
Yeah.
we're so lucky to have here in the town of Dayton. Somebody had the wisdom to save all this, and it's nice stuff. And we would take one of those slabs and bring it to them. Tom said that he can transport it. They would work it for us. First of all, they're gonna give us a rendition of it, which we would bring to you to get approval of it, okay? Then it would be installed. And in talking to them, I brought up the subject of there's a lot of granite, you have a lot of granite, that are they interested in taking granite in lieu of money?
Okay.
And they said that they would look at the granite, and that's a possibility.
Sure.
So it's a great project, and there's not a lot of Revolutionary War monuments throughout the whole country. That's because at that particular time, as they were going forward, they ran into other wars and they didn't have the money to do it, and they didn't have the people left to do it. So now, all these other monuments you see, there were a lot of World War II vets, there were a lot of Korea Vietnam vets and all, so they got together and they built these monuments. So we would be one of the few people in Massachusetts, other than in Boston and Lexington, of course, that had this type of monument. And it looks like a good project to us. And we think it's very, very doable. So I think what we're looking for tonight is just the vote to proceed to the
with this.
feasibility.
Right.
With the intention of coming back with each series of votes that it's gonna take to make this out here on Veterans Park.
One last question before I turn it over to the other two selectmen. The grants, have you raised any yet? Have we received any yet?
On our
Grants?
250?
Yeah,
No,
not yet, okay.
we keep looking.
Sure.
One of the problems with the grants is because we're such a small town, we don't meet the threshold
Sure.
of, some of them are, like, you have to have matching grants of, $25,000, so, but we keep looking. There was a whole series of grants that came out last week that we have to take a look at, and I don't know if the monument would fall under one of those or not, but we keep
Yeah, there are
searching.
several grants available for Revolutionary War monuments and other monuments, but there are grants for initial. Our proposal, the way I see it, once they write that and send it into a grant provider, they'll be overwhelmingly supportive of it because of what it encompasses.
Sure.
And especially Dayton's participation in the Revolutionary War, which is, quite impressive.
Right. And we would have to, for any of the grants, we would have to have an outline of, what the project is, a whole description of the project, where is it going in the town, is there town support for it? So we would need all of those components to even begin applying for grants.
And we would like to see the dedication of the monument around, for Veterans Day 2026, which would be the grand finale of the 250th, and would be the final act.
Sure. Okay. Nicole, do you have any questions?
I love the project. I love that you guys have already looked into ways of funding it. My saying this year is if you can fund it, you can do it. So if we can get that funding, that would be great. And I really think it would be nice, like Peter said, not to have that thing that's always blowing over, and just have a really nice thing out there, because that area deserves to have something nice.
Yeah, and Tom's been gracious enough to bring that podium out for the last few years that I've been here, because I told him I was thinking I'm too old to carry that monument out. and what he said to me, too old or just trying to get out of work? I remember.
We're gonna have you carry the granite in and out, Tom.
So the other side of that coin is the selectmen, you all are there to carry chairs and everything, so you're all pitching every
Yeah,
time
we're not
you
doing
do it.
granite chairs.
Yeah.
Mark?
Thank you, as always. You guys are always so creative in bringing things forward. I understand bidding and different thresholds, but I know getting rid of surplus is a different topic, you know? So I just don't know if it's, the laws around that, if it's legal to barter. That seems like government, municipal government and bartering. I don't know if there's a
Yeah.
legal way to
I
do
don't
it.
know.
Yeah.
It's so 1776.
That would be great, yes. Yeah.
It's
So I-
grandfathered.
Right. I don't know
We'll review
what
the 30B.
agency that.
The granite itself is 100 years old.
Right.
Wow.
No, you're right, though, about the procedure, but I think it would fall under the procurement laws. I think so.
So I would support it, with the caveat that we check with someone and we get in writing from someone that that's okay, just to protect our.
Yeah,
That's
once the
part of the
values are
feasibility.
placed on it, because you do have to place a value on what you have against value of what you're getting, so.
Sure. Okay.
Interesting.
So
Then
we
is there,
can work with Ralph on that.
sure.
Yeah.
Great. I got an email for a grant today. It was Cultural Council. Is
Yeah.
that one of them? We
Yeah.
were just looking at it, like, I think it might loosely fit for, you know, if you did
Yeah.
a ceremony around it, but I don't know. You'd have to look at the
Yeah,
details.
we have to look at it more, because I was looking at a couple of them, because there's one like for programming. There's one for like the festival part of it, which our reenactment, our encampment will fit into, but we have to wait till 2026 for that one. Because the monies that you saw in those grants today have to be expended by June 30th of 2026, and like our encampment's gonna be in that fall. So I'm keeping an eye on, you know, that one. But there were a couple of others there that looked like we could kind of use. One being we've been talking about, you know, making a sequel to the Lives and Fortune book, adding a little bit of more information about those soldiers, and that might fit into one of those too.
Awesome.
So, yeah, just have to look at the, you know, all of the rules for the grants.
Great. That's all.
And the one from the Mass Tourist and Tourism, I was thinking about, I said, oh, we have to have tourism in Dayton. We can start at ground zero, and if we get a little bit, then that'll have that for us. If we could do something with, I don't know, some kind of a tour or something. So we are thinking about how we can use those.
Thank you. That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Then I need a motion on the floor to approve the infancy of this, for them to look into a granite monument.
I'll make a motion for the 250th Anniversary Committee to begin exploring our Revolutionary War Soldiers Monument and to start looking into the feasibility of it.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thanks for being patient. Again, this is a review, discuss, and act. Roselli and Clark and Associates CPA engagement letter.
Roselli and Clark, they're our auditors. They do our audits every year. They were actually in they were in the building last week doing last year's audit. So, the town accountant, Serena Amaral, had reviewed this, and this falls into what our needs are. It's a 3-year contract that will review it for year ending June 30th, 2025, 26, and 27. So all I'm doing is requesting you give me the authority to sign this so we could move forward on it.
Do you have the actual copy tonight?
I will sign it, so we
Oh,
don't
you're
have,
gonna
but I
sign
do
it?
have
Oh,
the
because
actual,
it's,
I do, yeah.
you
I mean,
can't-
just
no.
give me the authority to sign.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, because it's just one signature line, and I would be, but I have the actual copy here.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I thought it was the 3 selectmen
Yeah.
on this.
No,
But I
no,
didn't read
yeah.
it close enough. Okay. Is there a motion on the floor then?
I have a question.
Oh, sorry. I
We
didn't-
used these people for the last time. Are you supposed to switch auditors like every contract, or how?
You
how
should,
often?
practices are you should review it, so I don't, Serena, who's the MCPPO, did review it as going into this, so she seemed to be, she was okay, with this. They do I'm just gonna say they do a good job. I know there's not many firms out here that do it, but it was reviewed by Serena, I know, going into it.
Okay, thank you. I'll make a motion to authorize the town administrator to engage Roselli Clark and Associates, contract as presented.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. We'll do acknowledgements and then another public input and then approval of the warrants. So the only acknowledgement that we have is a letter from Chris Rayner of Netrospect, donation of 5 computers to the town of Dayton.
Do you have to vote to accept?
Donating 5 computers. Do we need them, or?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
As it states in the, we are moving to two-stage authentication, and some of the computers we have right now are don't have the capability to move up to the next Windows, which the Windows program, which is required for two-step authentication. So we need. I think we need a total of about 12. Chris is our IT guy. He came across these 5, which would work for us, and it saves us.
Okay. How much money to?
They're about each computer. We get is about $600 a piece. So we're looking at still spending, if I remember, like $5,200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a review, discuss, and act. So, do you guys have any questions? Nicole, Mark?
No, that's very nice of Netrospect to do that for us. So motion to accept the computers as presented with thanks and appreciation.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public input? Mr. Hull, do you have something this evening?
Ladies before you. Unfortunately, Mr. Ferry and Mrs. Gales left. I just wanted to mention a couple of things. The Silas Talbot plaque, that was the last addition to the monument. It's the great big boulder with the Silas Talbot plaque that sits in the back of the little garden.
Yep.
That plaque was located in the old Dayton Junior High Town Hall, and when the building burned, that's what was left. My first year as a selectman, it used to be, no, not here, the room over there. It was leaning up against the wall and had been there since the school burned. And I said, we need to do something with it. How about if we find a big fieldstone boulder and mount it on it? Mr. Ferry is the person. He was not, he was a foreman on the highway department. I swear he knows every rock and tree in this town, but he knew the perfect boulder. And so that boulder that holds that plaque, I think it came from a section of West Dayton, maybe near the regional high school. But I wanted to mention that because he was involved with that. As far as the granite from the old bridge, the decision was made in working with the engineers that each town would get half of the pilings from the bridge. So Berkeley got a share and Dayton got a share. Some of them, I believe there might be some down at the Frank Costa Park, because they've been stockpiled at the landfill, but I think there might be one down there. I also believe the fence that was put up at the police department, the second fence to protect it from being hit, I believe, because I said to Tom, you think that wooden fence is going to hold? He says, yeah, I reinforced it with granite blocks from the bridge behind it. So there were a lot of pieces of granite that came out of that. But that's how each town ended up with a share of the original granite. And then the last thing I wanted to mention, Mrs. Gale said granite from the new bridge. The new bridge is not granite.
No.
It's concrete, and it's sprayed to make it look like rose granite.
Okay.
And it ages, and it gets, I'll call it pinker,
Yeah.
but not brilliant pink, but more like granite.
Sure.
Okay?
A quick question, the granite that's at the transfer station is, none of that is Berkeley's, it's all belongs to Dayton? Berkeley has their own stash somewhere?
Yes, you
Okay.
got, when they took the old bridge down, each town got their share, and
Sure.
it was transported to wherever.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Ms. Hull?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Leonard Hull, 760 Main Street, Dayton. Few things from school committee.
Yeah.
Some of them I think you're going to be interested about. First, couple shout outs. The Dayton Elementary School PTO, Dayton Elementary, Dayton Middle School PTO made a contribution of $6,400 to the elementary school.
Wow.
For vital needed supplies.
Sure.
And a little bit of programming. Dayton Lions Club, our superstars. To BP, DR, and BA, they gave a combined total of $3,000 or $1,000 to each school, to high school. Budget-wise, Bill Rooney and the school committee pared it down. They said to the best of their ability.
Okay.
They're looking at a 4.3% increase. Speaking to some of the selectmen in Rehoboth, they're satisfied with that number. Just so you know, when you go into discussions with the school committee on that. Bill Rooney today issued a letter that I'd like to read into the record. It's not really long. Dear Dayton Rehoboth families, students, staff, and community members, the upcoming fiscal 26 budget for DR School District presents both opportunities and challenges. While we are not facing the drastic cuts of previous years, this is not a sign of fiscal stability. Rather, it is a result of deep sacrifices already made in fiscal year 24 and 25, when 33 staff positions were slated to be eliminated. The financial burden on our town is not due to the district spending decisions, but rather an outdated state funding formula that fails to account for the real cost of education. The hold harmless designation now applies to over 230 districts across Massachusetts, forcing towns to shoulder the full cost of budget increases, a situation that is no longer sustainable given the 4-year inflation rate of 4.95%. The current formula is, some would argue, unfair to the small towns as compared to the big cities like Springfield. Massachusetts has an opportunity to address this broken system. There is a proposal before the House, SD 912, that would require $250,000 out of the state's $59.6 billion budget to reconvene the K through 12 funding review in fiscal year 26. This is a crucial step toward fairer education funding. We are very fortunate that our local legislators plan to support SD 912, and that is Justin Thurber on the House side and Kelly Duna on the Senate side. Kelly also serves in a very important committee of House Ways and Means, and I'll speak more about that in a moment. But they need data to help convince their colleagues in the House and Senate to support this bill. And Mr. Rooney has a link to a website which you can sign the petition in support of SD 1912. But as was the case last year, many people asked that we reach out to our legislators. And I might add that it had a significant impact, both in the state and at the local level. As was the case last year, the governor's budget was woefully underfunded for the schools, education. This year is no different. Last year, through the grassroots efforts, people contacting their legislators, there was a $48 million increase to Chapter 70 funding. That increase ended up being an increase of $150,000 to the Dayton Rehoboth School District. So I would advocate members of the Board of Selectmen, as well as citizens of the town, to contact their legislators and ask them for their support in bringing additional revenues to the school district, which one could argue if funding comes from the state, that might mean that on the town side, they might be able to negotiate a number little less than 4.3%. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hall.
Through-
Anyone else? No, nobody's there. Approval of the warrants, please.
Oh, if I may, before,
Oh, yeah.
through the chair, I'm sorry, this is a segue, just again, a reminder that was brought up at our last meeting, March 25th. The Dayton Rehoboth School Committee is having their budget meeting, which is, I think it starts at 6:30. So again, we're gonna post that on our web, on our website to make sure people who are interested in it have an opportunity to go. So March 25th.
Right, thank
Will
you.
you still, would you still mind working with, Tom to do that on an e-sign too?
Oh, yeah, we'll see if we can get
Maybe
that.
Facebook. Thank you.
Oh, we can get that on Facebook,
Cool.
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
E-sign
That's
might be
great.
tough, but,
You-
but we'll see. Maybe we could put it on a granite rock or something.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, let's definitely do that.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you for that, yeah.
Schools are tough, like, so we have a lot of control over town department budgets, but the schools assess us. And then we have kind of folks come a lot from the school committee and mention my understanding is if the townspeople vote it down, you have to have another special town meeting.
Right.
And if it's voted down again, the state seems like they take it over, the budget. and
Right,
they-
I think it's 3 meetings?
Yeah, I believe it's 3 times the state takes it over, and then they do a 1/12 assessment of your last year's budget until they resolve it through mediation, so.
So it's not a bad thing,
It's
because we
not.
get last year's budget.
Oh, okay, so it's last year's budget, okay.
Right.
Because it's tough, like, we go through our budget meetings,
Mhm.
and we look at all these departments so close, but the school is such a large part
one
of
number,
our budget. and
right.
It seems like there's, as selectmen, do we have that much that we can do? Like, as far as, like, if we have concerns for?
Yes, you can address the concerns. You can't tell them they gotta cut teachers or administrative. That's what the school committee does in their group, whatever group they have, to recommend to the superintendent whatever the budget's gonna be. Can we ask them to cut? Certainly.
Okay.
And not to bring Mr. Hull into this, but I'm a little disappointed that they didn't cut more than,
Absolutely,
less than 4%, which is what we asked them to do.
yes.
So, yes, at the town meeting, if it's tabled, correct, it would be tabled
You could only vote for it, or
vote it down.
reject it.
Okay,
Right,
so there's
yeah,
no
yeah.
tabling of it. If it was voted down, then there's 2 more times, the tent meetings is what they're called.
Then so you try to work out a budget
Yep.
again, and then again, and then.
And like I said, it has to be the third time. And correctly, as Ralph stated, the state takes over and takes over the budget, doesn't take
Right.
over the school system like happened in Providence
Okay, right.
recently. So the school would run, but just with a limited budget.
Okay. Thank you for saying that about being over 4%, because I found in our first budget meeting last
Yep.
night that I was really impressed with all our town departments and our
Sure.
town administrator for your support, because it seemed like everyone really tried and took
Absolutely.
the direction that we as a group gave to heart. And even it was interesting to hear BP, because they said, not including their assessment for the project, there was only a 2% increase.
Right.
No, and I know it's tough to compare different schools, and
Yep.
it's really hard to do that. And we say we don't like to compare Dayton to other towns.
Right.
But, you know, the fact is, if they only increase it 2% and DR's at 4.3, it's definitely something worth noting at least.
Sure.
Yeah, so, thank you.
The 25th is Tuesday, right?
Yes.
Okay. Then approval of the warrants.
Oh,
Oh.
you came back, sir. Did you want to speak during public input?
Oh,
Okay.
I'm
All
sorry,
right.
I
I
didn't
just
see you
didn't. Tell her she'll come back if she hears her name.
I'd make a motion to pay the warrants by March 6, 2025, 36A25 for $116,677.09, 36B-25 for $281,213.43. Warrants paid by March 13, 2025, 35A-25 for $120,734.85, and 35B-25 for $615,339.42.
I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Minutes. Now, the 13th we've already approved, so we're doing the 22nd, the 30th, and the 26th. Is there a motion on the floor?
Make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of January 22nd, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes of January 30th, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of February 26th, 2025.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.